Soundstripe. Welcome to South End Supporters Present Red versus Blue, your weekly Premier League series. Eric Cole alongside the Monday morning center back Dave Wyckoff. And Dave, I said we can pencil it in each week that we could pretty much guarantee that coming off the weekend, one of us will be happy and one of us will not. For once, we're flipped, and one of us is happy and one of us maybe isn't. And I don't think either of us going into that weekend would have predicted that it is the way it is, but I'm happy about it. But before we get into it, how are we doing this week?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not unhappy because that game was an absolute shit show to watch.
Yeah.
Like, even if you are unhappy with the result or happy with the result, it was definitely not boring in the least. A very interesting tilt that tilted the way of the Reds this time. So for this week and up until they play again, you've got song rights as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I mean, that was a pretty accurate way, I'd say, to describe that game, because not only just like game wise, it was just an absolute dump of rain coming down all game that just like you almost had worries going into like the second half. They were even talking about like checking the field to make sure it was even playable, because I think there were other games around the area that had like lower quality stadiums, which is kind of ironic saying that about Old Trafford at this point because it's so trash. But like referees at halftime were having to test whether or not the ball would even roll enough for it to be able to have play go on. And I was just sitting there going like, this is how it'll go. Like, we'll go up 2-0 and then the refs will call it and then we have to have a replay on a different day for some other reason. And yeah, it was just wild straight from the get-go. We'll get into our games. I mean, we might as well just get into that game right away, but straight away, it wasn't even, like 5 minutes in, if that, Sanchez picks up that red card on a break.
Yeah, and just like every time he starts to like turn the corner and like, oh, this guy, is somebody that, makes big saves in big moments, and like you could see like, okay, like you could compete with him to be top four, and like, he had a great Club World Cup, and then just an unbelievable, like, stupid ass decision, like on so many levels. And just like that, you're to your backup keeper and you're down a man with 90 minutes left to play. It's kind of unfathomable that a player could do something that's stupid, to be honest. And I know I shouldn't be surprised at this point by anything some of these guys do, but holy hell, man, like what could you possibly be thinking in the fourth minute that justifies that decision?
Not only that, like, I mean, I guess maybe like super late trying to make heroic, but like I'm trying to think, like, and I have no real goalkeeping knowledge at all or goalkeeping training or anything on what they're told, but I'm thinking, like, how many times does that actually work out positively for the goalkeeper as compared to what we saw that week? Like, if I'm the manager, I'm almost just saying, just stay back in goal, try and cut off any angles for a shot, make yourself as big as possible, but I'd rather you, and also given, like, where the two teams are going into that week, like, you have to still, even if you go down 1-0 in the first 5 minutes to United, have to feel confident in your team to be able to come back and mount up a little bit better of a rally, and then also not have to force your manager into some, big time decisions as far as early subs and all that type of stuff. But if I'm the manager, I'm saying from here on, you just stay back in the box, try and take away any angle, making Buembo still have to hold under pressure because he still would have had a decent way to go on a break. I mean, I've seen it many times where it's still been squandered. Like, yeah, you can't put yourself and your team in a hole that early on the road. And, luckily, as the game goes on, it just got that much wilder because I think we picked up our red. Casemiro got his red before half as well. So then you had a whole second half of just chaos, and that's where I was like, the second Casemiro, which was, you got to admit, that's soft for a second yellow. I mean,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
The situation, but like completely changes the game in favor of you, which I guess made it a little more exciting to finish. But man, it was almost one of those situations where there were a lot of other opportunities that we squandered where you're looking like, man, this could 2 goal lead could end up not being enough. And had you guys not been forced into pulling your whole, pretty much front three that early on, it could have been a completely different situation. I know Palmer's was, I believe, more of an injury thing. I think it's still that groin issue he's dealing with, but man, it's one where, like, yeah, obviously, for sure, I'm going to be happy until the next time we play, just letting you know at least we got one on you this year. But it wasn't one where I came out of it feeling any more like the first week with Arsenal, I was like, man, we put up a good game and, like, probably deserve more than that. This one, it's just kind of like, I think we got a little lucky considering it was an early red card, because I don't feel like even in the time we played, we were really, like, truly, dominating you guys. I thought you guys even still had a few chances on goal down a man. It was, I don't know, happy, but
well, United
not
definitely
satisfied.
controlled the first half. United definitely controlled the first half, like by far in terms of possession. Especially after Chelsea went down a man. But you're right; they did squander some of that possession because Chelsea looked completely sixes and sevens at the back, even after making those changes. Which I just want to address really quick. This was the most poorly managed game of the Enzo Maresca era, and it's not even close. Like, not even close. Like, number one, and I don't know why these guys feel the need to even say things like this after the game. I guess it's to protect the player, but if there is truth in that Cole Palmer's been carrying a groin injury for weeks on weeks, and he talked himself into the starting lineup for this game, and then he picked up an injury that could conceivably keep him out for an extended period of time, that is a monumentally stupid move by Maresca. Like, forget the idea, forget the Premier League for 1 second. Like, you've got 2 cup competitions and Champions League to worry about also, and that's your star player. He's the one that makes your team, your offense go. He can afford to sit out a Manchester United game. Like, I get it. It's a big, it's a rivalry game, but, like, at the end of the season, these two teams aren't expected to be competing for the same things. Right now, we don't know anything this early on in the season, but if I give you realistically speaking, like, the goals that Chelsea has this season are different than the goals that Man United has. It's just expectations wise, right?
Yeah.
So he got it wrong from the very beginning for that, as far as I'm concerned. And then pulling Neto and Estevao immediately, and I get that you weren't going to envision that Palmer would go out injured, but if he's already carrying a knock, wouldn't you play it a little more safely and maybe not pull both of those guys off? Maybe keep one of them on? So then when you end up, like, so many things happen in a game. Again, it's rush of blood to the head for Maresca too, right? Like, he essentially said, all right, we got to bunker this game, which I thought was just a terrible, terrible decision. Like, what about United's play this year so far has shown that you wouldn't be able to break them down if you just, played a little more defensively, but not bring on, another center back and essentially go a back 5 for 96 minutes or 86 minutes. Like, just monumentally stupid. And then, of course, Palmer picks up the knock. You got to pull him. So all your offensive talent is out. And then Casemiro, like, I will give you that the second yellow is very harsh, but he also put himself in that position. Like, I don't – these players at this point have got to understand and expect that if you put your hands on somebody in a pulling back motion, you're going to get booked no matter what minute it is, no matter if you think it's harsh. Like, he put himself in that position. He put himself in that position with a stupid early yellow that was, obviously a much more deserving challenge, but you got to play – you got to recognize that, okay, it's not worth putting my hands on this player at this point. We're in control of the game. It's 2-0. The weather conditions are in your favor. Like, just unbelievably. And it was just reflective of the whole game. Like, it was almost like it was being played in a different world, right? Like, between the conditions. And I want to say that, and this isn't a knock at Old Trafford. This is a knock at any professional pitch. If your pitch is not draining standing water, a professional soccer pitch, that's an issue. That's a major, major issue. And I'm not saying it would have made the difference, but I don't want to watch professional players slog through, fields that are that have standing water on them. It's kind of unacceptable on that level to do that. But, regardless, United got the 3 points. They did it. We kind of talked last week that we thought the chance, at least I thought the chance that they had was to make it an absolutely open game and just make it an absolute shit show of a track meet and just try to outscore Chelsea. But the conditions fell in their favor, and kudos to them, and they got something they can build on now. And I'll say again, the league is better when Man United is competing, is in competition for Europe for the top 6 spots. So I view that as positive, even though it was at the demise of Chelsea, who just they can't get out of their own way. The vibe is just weird, man. They just can't get out of their own way.
Yeah,
and it's not going to get any better this week.
No. I'll try to address kind of like all your points in order. As far as like the managing stuff, I think if I'm him, I'm giving it the next 10, 15 and just see how things play out. See how the game shifts. See how United adjust to going a man up, or see how you guys adjust to going a man down, because you're still at level playing field at that point. Like I would kind of like feel out the game rather than make a knee-jerk reaction right away and then pull off some big subs. I'm also thinking it may have been like a hot talking point, and I know nothing was going yet, but also if you have a player that's been dealing with a knock, I might pull him first, even if it is my star guy, just thinking like, hey, conditions right now, they're sloppy and wet. If he's dealing with the groin, that's just cause for a slip and making it worse, which it turns out it did. I'm playing it almost safe, like, and then you have that relationship with the player still to be like, hey, man, the only reason I'm taking you off here is I want to keep you safe. We got a long season ahead. I want this to be the deal that goes forward. And then maybe you're not, thrown into 3 big subs, plus, the rule with the windows as well, like the sub windows. So you got to also be smart with how many, how you choose to make those subs. And we've talked about this a couple times when talking about St. Louis City, and you've brought up a good point. A lot of times, sometimes you just have to protect the player from themselves, and you have to just break it down to them. Like, look, feed his ego. Be like, look, you are a vital part of this team. Yep. Going forward this year, we have a lot of cup competitions. We got the Champions League, which is really going to showcase your skills. I know you want to be up here for Old Trafford in the big game, but I need you this season. Let's just give it another week and let that thing – I want you fully back at your best and stuff. Casemiro,
yep, agreed.
As far as especially the first yellow, too many times this year with Casemiro, but just other players I've noticed, like they take for granted too much this, like, I can pick up a silly yellow here. I'm smart enough to know because you could have a play like the one where he did, where to him he just feels like it's an innocuous challenge. Hands are on people all the time. I won ball, but it doesn't matter. In a blink, you're on that second yellow, red, you're off, and then you're really putting your team in a. I think players need to go back to being a little bit more cautious with picking up those yellows and stuff going forward. And then as far as United, like in building off this, where I do really agree with you saying building off this is because we did statistically have the toughest first 5 games of the season so far. And looking at those games, you obviously highlighted the Arsenal, the Chelsea, and the City game as, probably ones that were not coming out with the big draws. You get lucky with Burnley, unfortunate against Fulham, but now you get – I don't want to call it a break because I don't feel like, especially early on, there are any breaks, but like it eases off a little bit. So if you can build a little bit of confidence and feel high coming off of a big game like that against Chelsea, I'm good with knowing that, hey, we picked up 7 out of the first 15 when we were probably predicted to get 6 or less. So you're not really coming out with any major injuries as well. Like I think there is something to build off going forward as far as that game. So anything else? What else stood out from you on the weekend as far as whether it's results or just anything that you noticed throughout this week?
The Merseyside derby was a really interesting game in that I thought that Liverpool, the actual Liverpool, finally showed up in the first half, and Everton hung with them. Now they put 2 goals on them, but Everton, immediately answered back at the beginning of the second half, and then it was on. Not to say that Liverpool was like scrambling to keep them from drawing that game, but Everton showed up, and that was great. It's the first goal that they've scored at Anfield, I think, in the last 4 matches. So they didn't pick a point, but that one kind of felt like we called that one. Like Everton are going to show up and they're going to give Liverpool everything they can, and I still think, and I've listened to a lot of pundits, and the feeling is, Liverpool they're taking all these wins. They haven't lost a game, but they're not even playing that well yet. It's like my thought is like they're a good team, could be a great team, clicking on all cylinders. But I don't think it's a function of them not playing well. I think it's a function of them having some shakiness and some holes. I still think the back line is their biggest strength, especially on that left side, whether it's Kirkez or Robertson. That's a weakness. Frimpong, he's so damn fast, and he's much more of a threat in attack. And Soboslai in a fill-in role did well at that right back. But I think they're far from a perfect team. But hey, they're showing up and they're winning, and they didn't have to do it in the 85th minute this time. So kudos to them.
Yeah, real quick, just
Leeds,
on that point, though, like,
yeah, go ahead.
You said they're not a perfect team. I think there needs to be an understanding that while teams can be good, great, everything, they're still going to have holes in it. So thinking that Liverpool is just this, like, from top to bottom, no weakness anywhere in their squad is just unrealistic to have that sort of thought process. They do have holes in their game, and they do mistake. And the other thing, too, is, like, when you come off such a successful season like they did last year, whichever way you want to look at it, teams are going to really analyze your team a lot more and look on how can they break you down specifically, because they're going to – and then they're going to try and attack that. And then always that Merseyside derby. I just think Everton dug themselves too big of a hole to be able to, finish strong with. But what do you think about the whole only 3 minutes of extra time? That seemed to be the big talking point for at least Evertonians leaving out of there was – once again, Liverpool seem to get like 8 minutes plus anytime they're down, but when they're winning, the other team, all of a sudden the stoppage time seems to shorten up a little bit. Like, I know it's just obviously us nitpicking because it's Liverpool, but
oh no, it's a major
conspiracy.
Like it's a major conspiracy. Absolutely no. My thought process is if you're planning on waiting until the stoppage time minutes are up on the board, then you're already screwed up. Like, don't wait that long. Like, what you've got to do to pick a point out of that game. Like, if I'm David Moyes, I'm more upset that I didn't give it a better go in the first half, because I think that game was there to be had. And I just think that they waited too long. And when you're down 2-1, to Liverpool at Anfield, you're not expected to win. You were never expected to pick a point from this game anyway. How do you not just sell out tactically in the last 15 anyway and just throw caution to the wind? Like, who cares at that point whether you lose 3-1 or 4-1? But if you could pick a point out of there, or you could pick all three, that's a legendary performance. So,
especially in a derby.
Good game. Yeah, it was a good game, and it'll be interesting to see the reverse effort. It's not at the old Goodison. I mean, so will Everton have that same Goodison magic that they've had against Liverpool there in the past? I was really impressed by Leeds going and putting 3 on the road against. I mean, it is Wolves, and Wolves are at the bottom of the table, but we've kind of been framing Leeds as this away team, or this home team that is going to struggle away. They put it on them. They've got some offensive firepower. Between Noah Okafor and Dominic Calvert-Lewin has proven himself to be a goal scorer. So excited for Leeds. I think that they have a really strong chance to stay up. I mean, if they can pick off teams like Wolves, who are going to be a bottom of the table team, and they could pick off road points like this, they're going to have a really strong chance to stay up. And I think they were picked by a lot of people to be, a yo-yo team this year. But, no, they looked really good. That was about it for the Saturday games.
I had Leeds as one of my slayers of the week. Reason being is I think that result could be something that later on down the road we look at as something that could keep them up, like in this
Oh yeah.
relegation battle. To go away to Wolves, a team that they're probably going to be battling for relegation with, go down a goal away from on the road, and then come back to win 3-1. Yeah, that was. I mean, you got to give props to that. Like sometimes we get so focused on title race or top four that sometimes you got to look at these like games like this that are like a standout as far as like what could be vital in the relegation battle come later in the year.
Yep. No, I'm with you. That's a great point. It doesn't, you don't think about that when you get down to May, but yeah, picking three away from a team that you could potentially be in a relegation battle with is huge. I'll give mine to Fulham. I mean, there weren't a lot of great individual performances this week, but Fulham, they're legit. I think that we kind of have not like not overlooked them a little bit, but they put it on Brentford 3-1 at home in a pretty convincing performance. And Brentford are a little unmanned this year from all their player sales, but Fulham's sitting eighth right now, and they look a threat against every team basically, and especially at home. So I'll give them Slayer of the Week. As for the Sunday games, the big one was obviously Arsenal and City. But just touch on the biggest letdown of the week was Bournemouth and Newcastle. Like I watched that entire crap fest, and just neither team took a chance. And I was really disappointed more in Bournemouth than anything, because Newcastle did have Barcelona midweek in Champions League, so they did do some squad rotation. But good God, like that game, I think I saw a stat at one point where Newcastle didn't have a shot after like the 35th minute. Like, come on, God, Bournemouth. Yeah. Like, you're at home. And again, we talk about opportunity missed. 3 points for the taking against a team that you're probably going to be vying against for one of those European spots, albeit maybe Europa or for conference. And just don't get it done at home. I think it's a bigger miss for Bournemouth than it is for Newcastle, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Newcastle's just, and the other team that I'm going to tie in with Newcastle that is just so like confusing to me so far this year is Villa. Like both those teams really had going into this, and then Villa playing most of the game up a man and still just not getting it done. I mean, and realistically, like Matty Cash, he hit that ball well, but like, I mean, you almost got, if keeper's getting two hands on it, you got to hope for maybe a little something better. I know there's movement and all sorts of stuff going on with the ball, but like, having only one goal scored on the year, and then, Bournemouth. I mean, if you can keep a team from not having a shot after the 35th minute, like what are you doing then with the rest of your possession? Like, let me see if I'll pull up this spot mob right, and like you even look at like the win probability momentum or whatever that they have on there. That second half, there's no like big waves coming on it. Like it's kind of just both teams are just. You almost got the feeling of both teams being happy to come out of there with and then when you have player of the match being a goalkeeper, it's like, oh man, that tells you kind of what you need to know as far as like what's going on. To your point with Fulham, I feel like Fulham's one of those teams. Bournemouth could be one of those teams this year that you just always kind of associate them with being a bottom half of the table team until like towards the end of the season, where you're kind of like, hey man, they've been in seventh for the past 6 weeks. Like they're a solid squad that just they're like the Crystal Palace. Like they just show up against those big teams and they give those big teams a game. And then you'll look some weeks and you'll be like, almost like a Tottenham feeling where it's like, oh man, they've got it figured out. Oh, they just dropped points to Wolves. Like what's going on? Like it's like those types of deals where those are those teams, but. I don't know. It's been weird. Yeah, the Arsenal City game. Arsenal, was it Martinelli who got the game winner with just a fantastic chip on that? Oh my god! And then that was one where I think it was honestly best outcome, where when you don't really care for either team, you just hope for some sort of draw at the end of it and a couple red cards, so then neither team is missing a player for the next week on whoever they play. But Arsenal, I mean, at home. Get a goal like that, against a team that you're probably going to be, within a title race, discussion going against. And to, what I think City scored in like what the 8th minute. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, it was early.
it was a good, back and forth game. I think games like that, you always hope for it to be like 3-3 or, huge scoring games, but it was a good back and forth. I'm kind of liking this new rivalry that's developing between Arsenal and City ever since the whole be humble situation with Arteta
With
and
Holland.
Holland.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just like the other SL
Yeah.
stuff, like Holland scoring that one, or somebody scoring that one goal, and Holland picking it out of the back of the net and throwing it in the back of Gabriel's head, like stuff like it's slowly developing into a fun little rivalry. You've obviously got Arteta.
There's a
who's
common
been under Pep
denominator
for
here.
years. Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
common
yeah.
denominator here. It's that shit disturbing Norwegian. That's what it is.
Well,
He's so good. He's so good for the game. Like just a big, fast moose of a dude that runs his mouth and scores a crap load of goals. Like it couldn't be any better for the game
Well,
than having a guy like that.
yeah, he reminds me almost of like a maybe less, weirdly enough, like not by much, but just as far as maybe what the things he says in interviews, less flashy of a Zlatan. He's just a big, giant dude that finishes. So there's nothing you could say about his play. He's not just a brute
Yeah.
out there. But then he just, I love like if you ever look at like anytime Holland gets in a scrap or something like that, the first thing he says is just, "What are you gonna do?" And it's always some 5'6" dude looking up, going like, "Yeah, I guess I got nothing here." Like it's just he knows. And it was the same with Zlatan. He was always the same way. He's just like, "What are you gonna do?" Like it's just.
Well, he bullies the game. I mean, that's his style. It's just
Yes.
there's and I say this, he does have a little bit of like nuance and subtlety to his game. Like he's got good feet for a big guy, like excellent feet, especially in small spaces. But the majority of the damage he does is just these bullying runs where you either think you can outrun him, which you can't, or you think you can outbody him, which unless you're Virgil van Dijk, you can't. Which is why I love that matchup so much more.
Yeah.
It's just fun to watch. But good on Arsenal for coming back. I mean, I was listening to Guardian Football, and they were kind of all over Arsenal for not being able to unlock City until that moment. But it's like, but then they did it. Like the point is not that it took them so long. The point is that they stuck to it, even though City threw a different tactic for Man City. They threw it at them, and they did it. They got the point out of it. I mean, obviously they would have preferred a win, but you can't be mad at that. You can't be mad at a late stop, a late equalizer. Last thing I want to, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, you're exactly right with the tactics thing. We've never seen Pep park the bus.
No.
Like, that's not his game, and so then you're also
It
like
worked.
trying to.
It almost worked. Yeah.
Almost, yeah. Then you're mid game trying to also think like, is this just a ploy? Is this a trap? Like,
Yeah.
is he actually gonna play this way? Like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
tough.
The last thing I want to touch on from the weekend, and this just the surprise of the season for me is Sunderland. I mean, you're going to be hard pressed to find anybody that would have said, okay, through 5 games, Sunderland are going to sit 7th in the table. And this is not like they're running through just bottom of the barrel teams. I mean, they've played Villa, Palace, Brentford, and then Burnley and West Ham. Now, but they didn't beat Burnley. They lost to Burnley. So you think they start the season, they split a 3-0 win over West Ham and then 2-0 loss to Burnley. Okay, probably end up being a bottom 5 team, might be able to scrap their way out of relegation. But then they beat Brentford, they draw Palace at Selhurst Park, and then they draw Villa down a man for most of the game and have to come back to do it. That's exciting, man. Like, I have no illusions of them finishing in the top 10, but I don't think anybody would have expected them to take 8 out of their first 15 points. And nor do you expect that to be the norm for them. Like, obviously they're going to go through a lull because a lot of their players haven't played this sort of demanding of a Premier League schedule, right?
Right.
But you've got to really, I mean, out of all the relegation teams at this point, how can you look at them and say that they're not going to stay up unless they go through just some sort of cavernous decline? How can you not say Sunderland are almost guaranteed at this point to stay up? I think what's the normal points threshold for relegated teams? It's in like like the low 20s or
Yeah.
low 30s?
Low 30s. But
Yeah.
nowadays with teams being so dominant towards the top, it's actually like like there's been I think for sure like bottom relegation teams are like only getting into the teens. Like they're
Yeah.
really struggling for any sort of pointage. But yeah, Sunderland, I have them as my like that exciting newly promoted team that runs high for a little bit and after Christmas starts to diminish. They almost remind me of the first year Leeds came up under the Bielsa
Yeah.
era, where they were just so exciting to watch. Like you said, they lived and died by the sword, but like they were fun to watch at least, and they gave it a fight every time they were in it. And then since they had such a hot start towards the beginning, that's what ultimately ended up keeping them up for that next year. And I think that could be, like you said, like a Sunderland deal where I think eventually they'll hit their little wall, and things will struggle just as far as the adaptation to the Premier League. They haven't been there for so long, so like you said, none of these players have even had Premier League experience really. That it'll take its toll towards the end of the second half of the season, especially when other teams are really vying for Champions League spots, or other teams are really vying for the title race, like that type of stuff. But until then, man, they're exciting to watch, and especially when they are at home and they're vying off that atmosphere. It's real fun team to watch right now.
Yeah. 1.6 points per game through their first five. Times 38, that would put them on 60. So they're not going to get to 60, but that pace right there, I mean, it's if you could keep somewhere close to that, they'll stay up rather easily. So, yeah, I thought that was awesome. And this week we've had some Carabao Cup, no big upsets or anything. So we had some squad rotation during the week for the bigger clubs. But back at it. Do we have a Friday game this week? I'm not sure if we have a Friday game or not with having Carabao Cup.
Speaking of Carabao Cup, I forget if it was ESPN, Apple TV. I don't know what app it was, but I got a real gripe with them because they sent me an alert, and I wasn't really paying attention, so I saw it a little later. But the alert, when I finally went and checked it, is Chelsea's down 1-0 to Lincoln City. Can they find a way back? I got all excited. I scooped to my phone, and by the time I got back to it, you guys were back up 2-1. I was like all ready to be like, see, it's not so hard or easy, is it? Like anybody, any day. Like I would, and so like there needs to they just need to calm down until it's like the 90th minute or something like that to send out those sorts of.
Yeah, they really do. I'm looking at that squad. It kind of looks like the squad that ended up on the field against United at the end of that game. There's a lot of defenders and bench players. But no, I honestly didn't even watch that game yet. They went down, looks like early, and then 2 in the second half. Just struggling to put away. I guess it was a little different because it was at Lincoln also, so that's a different. There's a little bit of a small pitch factor. But again, Chelsea, even the Chelsea reserves, they shouldn't be having problems with a team like Lincoln. What division are Lincoln even in? I think look and see here. They're in League One.
I think
No, they're in League One. Yeah, they're top. I mean, they're top 3 in League One, so it's not. They're no Grimsby Town, but they're no slouch. But yeah, we're back at it this week.
Unfortunately is going to probably be a saying in our group for the next 20 years. It's just going to be like,
they're no Grimsby
Town though, or anything like that. Yeah.
I think Grimsby just drew Brighton for the next round of the Carabao. Let me check that real quick.
All I got to say is look out Brighton, because that's a top level.
That is a top team. That's a top team
squad. And God forbid if you go to PKs, they will not miss.
Oh no, they drew Brentford, but it's at Grimsby. October 27th, Grimsby and Brentford at Grimsby. So, gotta give them a chance. I mean, we know Brentford's not a perfect team by any means. I feel like that game probably is ripe for the picking for Grimsby.
Well, let's hope that Brentford keeps on that trajectory of not being a perfect team, because that segues perfectly into this weekend. And the first game of the weekend is the 6:30 kickoff, and that is Man United taking on Brentford. It's going to be at Brentford. United, like you said, coming off this win against Chelsea. Brentford, kind of a up and down year, mainly down. Obviously, we kind of thought that with all the transitions that they had going into this year, but has still shown signs of being a dangerous team, like not a team that you can overlook by any means. I'm hoping that, again, not having to worry about any other tournament other than the Premier League can give us kind of a big edge in this. Brentford also coming off that big, beating pretty much by Fulham. I think they're just the squad in struggle right now, whereas you could look at United as maybe it's still just as one area that United is really struggling in. But from reports I saw today, looks like we're finally going to rotate the goalie to Simmons. Or Lemons, we're finally going to get on, give the new kid a run. He's been progressing really well in training, according to Tom Heaton, who's like a veteran goalkeeper. It's just going to be that midfield still. I think we still go back to like somebody who's going to be fierce, because Brentford, I think, is going to be very physical in the game. I think you got to go with Ugarte until you figure it out. I'd love to see Manu getting in this game. If he doesn't get in this game, it's a real worry as what his future with United is going to be, and real confusing because they talked him out of a loan move throughout the year. Why would you talk him out of a loan if you're not giving him any sort of game time? I want to keep the positivity going, and I want to say it's going to be a United win, but I think it's a 1-goal win. I don't think it's anything that's going to be overly convincing by any means. I think the big key is going to be I'm hoping Cunha's back in the starting 11, and then you have Mbeumo as well, and those two can just really catch fire. But my biggest hope is we could finally get Šeško on the board. The kid needs some sort of confidence building. He's lacking any sort of distribution into the box that is finding him. The times that he does get it, he looks dangerous, but we have to get our main number 9 going. And so hopefully those can be the front 3, and they can come out of there and get something going.
United over the last 5 have gone win, loss, draw. So, consistently inconsistent in terms of results.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I don't think you could take anything out of the Chelsea game at all other than, what they figured out a way to get it done. Kind of like the Burnley game, that the last win, the 3-2 win over Burnley. Like, again, they found a way to get it done. I have no idea. I have absolutely no inclination as to what United team is going to show up.
United's got to be that one team out of all the teams in this Premier League that, it's literally a coin flip on what the result will be on the weekend. Like you said, what United team shows up.
I don't know. I think maybe they find a way to get a result against Brentford, because Brentford's nothing special. United have the more talented team, so they should be able to get a result from this game, if not a win.
My big hope, though, is they don't look at this as like, all right, good, we got out of those first 5 games. That was always, because that was really publicized. It's the first 5 games. Like, that doesn't mean like you can let the foot up. Now is the time where, if anything, you need to put the gas down more, build more confidence going in.
You look at their next 5, so like you said, first 5 were points-wise a result. Next 5, you get at Brentford, home against Sunderland, at Liverpool, home against Brighton, at Forest. You could seemingly see a similar run of results, to where you pick out 8 of 15, 10 of 15, something like that, with the obvious looming challenge being the Anfield game. But the more we know, the more we think we know about United, the less we actually know. So, one game at a time, 1 week at a time. We'll see. I think your point about getting Kobe Manu in the game is huge, and I don't think he turns him into all of a sudden some sort of European contender. But he's the best midfielder that you have. Like, when he's on, he's the best midfielder that United have. When he's on, he's one of the best midfielders that England has, as far as the international squad. So, for him to all of a sudden be like fighting for minutes is just kind of absurd.
Yep. No, trust me. I agree. Next, we'll go on to you guys taking on Brighton. You guys are at home. Brighton always seems to give you guys a game every year. Brighton, I think, where they're sitting in the table maybe doesn't reflect as like how their games have kind of gone. I feel like every game they've been in a real challenge and real, a lot of games I thought they almost looked the more dominant the team and just couldn't get it over the line towards the end. 2 draws in there, just went toe to toe with Spurs. Gave points against Bournemouth. Let's see what else. They beat City, which was the big one.
Yep.
Lost to Everton. Tied Fulham. I mean, not exactly an easy run so far for them as well. You guys, like you said, I don't think you guys are really overly hanging your heads off that, United game midweek against, Lincoln. I think you chalk it up to, we had a heavily rotated squad and all that type of stuff. But I would think you being back at Stamford Bridge will, give you guys back on the road or back on the right track, I would say.
I don't know. I don't see this as a game to look forward to with them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's not a. I've said this many times. I do not like watching Chelsea as they're currently constituted. Like it's a boring, predictable squad right now, led by the captain, who's the most boring, predictable player on the squad, ironically. So, man, I don't know, man. Like, talent-wise, yes, they should be the better team in this game. You get João Pedro, Esteval, Neto, Enzo, Caicedo. Like, that's a really strong front six, right? Mm-hmm. But the four guys that are in front of your damn keeper are really weak. And, half of them used to play for Brighton, so Brighton understand their weaknesses better than anybody. Yeah. And Brighton are a scrappy team. And Chelsea are not a scrappy team. Like, all told, they're just not. That's why they lose. That's why they lose games like that against United. Like we always talk about, like good teams find a way to win games, bad teams find a way to lose games. Chelsea don't find a way either way because they're just kind of sitting in the ether right now. They don't have anybody or anything that sets them apart in my mind, which is frustrating in so many ways. But, I can't. I think they dropped this one, man. I've seen this movie too many times. Like, you would think there'd be this big bounce back. Like, oh, we had a crappy effort against United, and we had a crappy effort midweek in the Carabao Cup. Let's come out with our hair on fire. Like, no, I don't see it. I think Brighton probably win this one. I think Chelsea. This is the type of game where Chelsea go down like 1-0 or 2-0 in the first half and then have to try to battle and just come up short because they don't know how to unlock well-organized teams, and Brighton's a well-organized team. So, yeah, I don't usually pick against the club that I support, but yeah, I've seen this too many times. And right now there's no Stamford Bridge is not some major home field advantage. Like, they get loud when things are going well, but they can get quiet and get taken out of the game real fast. So
I saw a video on Stamford Bridge the other day where people were like comparing atmospheres, and that was the exact thing that they said is like, when they're in it, it's loud and it's good atmosphere, but when they're not or things are slow, it's a lot of just dead silence and stuff.
And that reflects the playing style, because last year when Chelsea went on that late season run, it wasn't because they were some possession, swinging around, hold the damn ball 65% of the time team. It was because they would get the ball and they would go with it. It was a very exciting, high-paced attack, and not even necessarily just a counter. Like, they got the ball and they went. And they don't do that this year. For whatever reason, they've regressed back to this, we're going to swing the ball back and forth between our four backs who none of them can actually distribute the ball. So, let's just hold the ball. Hey, we won the possession battle. Like, awesome. You lost 2-1 because you don't know how to break down a defense.
Yeah. And Brighton, along with like Crystal Palace and I would say Fulham as well, just always seem to give you guys like the most grief. It feels like those teams. Is there any player
I would say
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, is there any player in your squad that you would relate to like a Mainu that you're sitting there going like, I don't know why this guy isn't getting more time for you guys? I feel like you guys pretty much run while healthy, pretty much your strongest squad available. I can't really think of anybody, but I don't follow.
No, there's so many injuries right now that anybody that you would say like should be getting more time is already. So yeah, I don't know. None of them really. There's plenty of guys that are playing too much. Malo Gusto's playing too much. I'll tell you that much. Mm-hmm. The guys that aren't playing are often injured. That's you'd like to see more of like Roman Lavia in the center mid, like just kind of swapping out, like being able to rotate out Caicedo and Fernandez, but he's never healthy. No, I'll say one more thing on this game, and then we can move on to the next one. The one X factor that could put this over the top is João Pedro being a former Brighton player, and he might just show up and show out, man. He may just, this might be where he takes it on himself to be like, you know what, I'm going to get a brace and I'm taking over this game, just to kind of show like there's a reason that I'm at Chelsea and I'm no longer at Brighton.
Yeah, there's something about when you're playing that former team that you have to justify either, because he's going to get stick. He's going to get stick the whole game. And so you want to like almost like let them know, like, look, this is the reason I left and this is the reason they wanted me and all that type of stuff. So, yeah, you're right. That will be an X factor in there. What I have is a big team battle for the weekend. Crystal Palace taking on Liverpool. Palace, the home team here. Palace has just been playing this year. They've come to show up. They've been a really strong team considering all that they've lost throughout this offseason. They just haven't let it affect them greatly on the pitch. They've still shown up and it's almost brought them together more, it feels like, with all they've lost. They've still been, just sticking with it. Unfortunately, seeing some news today, it looks like I've seen like bigger clubs linked to like a couple more of their players. It's just like they can't catch a break, but could this be the time that we finally see the big Liverpool, drop? Like a team that's just, gonna always a giant killer, always a team that just seems to play up to their competition. Could this be the time that, maybe Liverpool does finally get exposed and not exposed, but just, this is where they finally drop those points?
I think there's a good opportunity that they drop points. I don't know if they're going to get exposed because I think Palace is just a well-coached, solid team. I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess
talent-wise,
drop points.
But I know exactly what you're saying. Liverpool, if there's a place where Liverpool in recent history have had a little bit of trouble getting results, it's Selhurst Park. Last year in the Community Shield, or actually earlier this year, Community Shield was the game where Palace won in penalties.
Yeah.
Last year Palace drew Liverpool at Anfield late in the season, and that was, again, a different Palace team. But, a 1-0 win by Liverpool at Palace at Selhurst Park last year, a 1-0 win by Palace at Anfield last year. So, yeah, this is a team that kind of knows how to play them. Now, I think this week is the first week that you may see Isak and in as close to full form as he has been all season. Ekitike is suspended because he picked up 2 stupid yellows in midweek. So it's going to be Gakpo, Isak, Salah, and then the full team behind them. So this may be welcome to Liverpool, Alexander Isak. So
yeah.
We'll see. Palace is a solid defending team, so we'll see how that works out.
Yeah, I think Isak gets the start anyway, just from what I saw with Arne Slot talking about Ekitike. But do those 2 yellows carry over from Carabao to Premier League?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, he's suspended for this week. Yep.
Well, I think either way, Arne Slot came out and basically, which I respect. Like, you gotta call that stuff. Forget protecting a player when it's something stupid like that. Like, he basically said something to the effect of like, yeah, you dribble, 5 or 6 players all on your own. You do all this work and get a wonder goal. You understand it, but off a goal like that, that's not something. And considering everything, he just basically called them stupid and said that there's going to kind of be in-house repercussions for that. And I think that's what you have to do is you have to let some of these younger kids know, like, hey, this is a championship team. We don't play with the childish stuff. Like, have fun, be yourself. But when you're starting to affect the team, getting a silly second yellow like that, I can't trust you. And if anything, Ekitike has to be thinking like, I can't do anything to be slipping up because I've got almost a world record transfer fee coming in right behind me. Like, I have to if I want to hold this spot down, I can't give Isak any reason. He got on the score sheet midweek as well. So like, that's got to be Palace's big worry is the fact that you're right. It could be the first time we see big bad Liverpool, as far as he's up front and all that type of stuff. So that's going to be
again Palace between Gahey, Chris Richards, and LaCroix. That's a good back three. That's a strongly drilled defensive team too. So I don't know without Eze, it's really hard to see Palace finding a way to kind of unlock Liverpool. So I don't know where the offense is going to come from, but again, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if this was, a 1-0 Palace victory. But it also, if this is if this is the game where Liverpool go into Selhurst and win 3-1 and Isak nails a brace, put the league on notice because that is a problem.
Yeah, you're right. Next, we've got Leeds taking on Bournemouth. Bournemouth been flying high so far this season. Leeds coming off a big comeback victory, but again, it was against Wolves. They are at Ellen Road, but Bournemouth look too strong right now. Bournemouth sitting, fourth in the table, 10 points. Let's see who Bournemouth is really taking on. I mean, they struggled against Newcastle, but they did take down Brighton. They've taken down Spurs, lost to Brentford, and then obviously they lost to Liverpool as well. So I mean, they've picked up the games that they need to pick up. And if that's trending in the way that it's going to continue to trend, this is a game that they should pick up points against Leeds. I know Ellen Road, we've highlighted it multiple times as a great place, a great atmosphere to play. I just don't see it being that great. I think this is, it's going to be one where, I think Bournemouth, it's a game, but I think Bournemouth come out with this one.
Yeah, I don't know. I also thought that Bournemouth would take it to Newcastle a little bit, being at home again.
Yeah.
Who knows which Bournemouth shows up? They're the better team. They're the more talented team. They're the better coach team. But Leeds are coming off a road victory. You never know how they're going to respond from that. I certainly think that these points would mean more to them being at home to get a result against a top half team. So I think they probably do what they can to secure a result. Now that doesn't mean that they're going to bunker in, but I think Leeds is going to make this one. Leeds will try to make this one exciting, and I don't know if Bournemouth can be an exciting team. That's kind of my point here. Like Bournemouth don't really strike me as a team that wants to get out and play champagne football, as you say. So we'll see what happens. I gotta kind of give the edge to Leeds and the momentum a little bit.
That's actually a great way to put Bournemouth. They're just not ever I can't think of many times where it's man, did you see that Bournemouth game? It's always, did you see whoever Bournemouth was in the game with? It's just they get results, but yeah, as far as a wow factor, not really setting the world on fire. Like I said, it was I think they're all 1-goal wins. Yeah, 1-0 against Spurs.
Yeah, Bournemouth is a team.
Blues,
Bournemouth is a team that
Wolves,
nobody wants to play.
Yeah, they're all
really. Bournemouth is a team that they're going to drag you through the mud for 90 minutes, and they're going to make you hurt for it. And even if you win, we kind of talked about this last week, and I don't know what team it was in reference to, but even when you beat them, you're going to come out after that game, and you're going to have some bruised up bodies, man.
Yep. Next, we'll go to Man City taking on Burnley. City at home. This has all the writings to be just a Burnley try to bunker in and hopefully withstand the storm, but you can't do that against the team. You can't invite pressure against the team. Like you said, Holland's going to be in there almost looking for that physicality, and they are a team that can pick you apart with bunkering down. This one to me seems like a big-time City win, 2-3 goals plus. Kind of sort of thing, unless they choose this game to be one of those games that they try to rotate, or Pep tries to get cute with a lot of youngsters and that type of stuff. But I just don't think. I think Pep also has got to change his mindset this season to realize this isn't the City that has gimme games anymore. This is a City team that needs to pick up every point possible if they still want to be in this discussion for the title race, because when you talk to everybody, it's Arsenal, Liverpool. So City can't, I feel relax in this game and find themselves, pulling a Bournemouth or whoever they lost to, where they did lay back too much.
Yeah, they're already 8 points adrift of first place.
Which is huge in the race.
you can't let that gap get too big. But I'm with you. This one feels like a City with like 65% and like a 2-0, 3-0, 3-1 victory. Burnley are feisty, but I don't know. They get a result against a Villa when they're down a man, but I don't think that City offers such a different dimension of attack than any other team that Burnley have played so far this year. So I think this one should be a pretty simple City win, Man City win.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Then we get a little later into the day, the 11:30 kickoff. We've got Nottingham Forest taking on Sunderland. Sunderland away from home. It's going to be at Nottingham Forest. Ange Ball hasn't really come into effect as of yet. This will be his second game in charge of Nottingham Forest. I want to think that. This probably has the makings of like a draw, but I want to think that Sunderland's going to just keep this thing rolling. Like, this is one of those games where I do think that they could keep it rolling, and Nottingham Forest is still just such in a mess right now, and they're behind the ball on where they should be. Sunderland are way ahead of the ball on where they should be. So it also has the potential of this being the game that kind of sort of evens the sway back out, and Sunderland could drop. But I just want to keep riding this newly promotion high. So I'm hoping Sunderland go there and get some sort of result, just because they're that young. Because like you said, didn't you say they're the youngest team in the Premier League this year? Something stat like that.
Yep.
So just go in there, no fear, and just come out with something. It could be an exciting game.
So Sunderland have nothing to lose. That's what I'll say about them. They're not expected to take points from this game. They've got absolutely nothing to lose here. Mm-hmm. The bigger question mark here is Forest. So this will be the fifth game in the Ange era for Forest, and they haven't won one yet. Midweek they played against Betis in Europa, and they dropped points late. But they played a really strong game by all accounts. So the best game of the four so far in the Ange era. Never like to see dropping points, but Betis is real competition. So out of the first four games, like I said, by all accounts, this was the first game where we actually kind of got to see a little bit of Ange ball. I think there's a little bit of weird trepidation in the Forest world in that, they loved Nuno so much, and Nuno got results, but oftentimes it was the criticism of Nuno was that he didn't play expansive enough to really unlock some of the players that he had. So he's gone now, and that's what Ange does. He plays expansive football. So it hasn't turned into a win yet. I think that this is the opportunity for him to kind of introduce what Ange ball should look like, because it's not like Sunderland or some team that's going to try to hold the ball a bunch. This has the potential to be a pretty good game, I think. If Sunderland want to run a little bit with Forest, and if Forest can kind of get it together and play like they did against Betis midweek, then this might be a sneaky good game for the neutrals. I think Forest win it easily. They should win it easily. Again, but Sunderland have nothing to lose. This is not a game that Sunderland's expected to take points out of.
Right. And then the last game of the Saturday, the 2 p.m. kickoff, we've got Tottenham taking on Wolves. Tottenham at home. Wolves. Is there any way that Tottenham find a way to screw this up? Well, that's what I was going to bring up. Is I'm sitting there going Wolves are just such a disaster right now.
Yeah.
But again, this could be the ultimate Tottenham move, where you're looking at them thinking they're looking real strong this year. We had them where they dominated Man City at 2-0, and then when they played Bournemouth, we're they could make the ultimate Spurs move here and drop points, and then they do, and then they bounce back against a big showing against West Ham. They beat Villarreal, and then they tie Brighton, which is going to be a team they do big on Doncaster. The only thing that I think has going against Tottenham at this moment is their congestion of schedule. They've played so many games here the past month or so. I just still think Wolves are just that bad so far this year. I just don't. Yeah. I don't see I think worst case scenario, the way I see it, is Wolves gets a draw somehow. But to me, this looks like one that I think Tottenham gets, 2-0, some sort of comfortable win in the end. I think just talent-wise, they're just too far ahead of Wolves here.
Wolves did beat Everton midweek in the Carabao Cup, so they do have a little bit of momentum, but they also will likely have a little bit of squad rotation. I'm with you. I think Tottenham are just too talented and too well coached to lose a game like this that they should win. I think Thomas Franks, to me, is a different kind of Spurs manager in that it seems like the managers that Spurs have had in the past, it was kind of expected that they were going to fall on their face, and they didn't know how to react to like that Tottenham slide, right? I think Thomas Franks is a little bit different. I like to think that he's a little bit different and that he's a coach that will recognize deficiencies in the team and make those adjustments. Now, it's still Spurs, so that black cloud just kind of hangs over, the any sort of ambitions, aspirations, or whatever. You make a great point about them having more congested schedule. Did they do enough in the off season to kind of mitigate the increased need to play, and the increased need for players? Like they brought some guys in, but they also missed out on some major targets like Eze. So we'll see. They had midweek rotation. They played Doncaster, beat them 3-0. So yeah, we'll see. They were fortunate to take points last weekend. Drew on an own goal late on, so we'll. I think that this should be fairly easy for them.
Yeah. I do still enjoy the fact that no matter how bad things have gotten over here at United, and we're responsible for their only trophy in the past, however long or if ever, I still always feel confident each week that this is Spurs saying this is Spurs, or they could easily pull a Spurs movement because they back up every time people have that kind of talk towards them. Next, we move into Sunday, kicking off Sunday, Aston Villa taking on Fulham. Aston Villa at home. This one had all the makings, I would say, at the beginning of the year for a very solid Europa battle type game. Villa really struggling to get it going. Like we said, they were down against Sunderland for most of the game, and Sunderland came back down a man and pulled back a goal. As you were highlighting earlier, Fulham have really kicked on and looked like a real strong team so far this year. I think Fulham is kind of doing what we were thinking Fulham had the possibility of doing. I think Fulham come out with the result here. I think Fulham's really running high, and Villa's just not. And they're every week you think, all right, this will be where Villa kicks on, and then they don't. This will be where Villa's up a man this whole game. This will be where they really kick it on, and they get back to Villa, and then they don't. So I think Fulham's too strong right now.
That, and you just don't know. You don't know what it's going to take to get Villa to kick on. Like if they haven't done it yet, what is it actually going to take? I mean, if Emery can't get them going, it makes you wonder like how much job security has he actually got? Because at this point, like you would think that your veteran players would have stepped up, and been like, hey, we're not a relegation club. We're not a relegation club. Like we should not be in a relegation battle, regardless of, lack of signings or transfers going out. So that being said, yeah, this one says Fulham to me all day, all day.
Then the late game on Sunday has the potentials to be a big team battle. We've got Newcastle taking on Arsenal. Newcastle at home. You always love that atmosphere there. Both teams, have had to deal with Champions League. Both teams have had to deal with Carabao Cup. So it's not like congestion of schedules really going to come out as far as that goes. I would say maybe Arsenal has definitely had the tougher of run, but they've been a little bit more successful in their run. They went to Athletic Club, and they got a result there. Obviously, the draw with City, easy win over Port Vale with, good rotation, I'm sure, within that game. Newcastle, they had the Barcelona game for Champions League, and then Newcastle, the 0-0 draw at Bournemouth, and then 4-1 win over Bradford. So, I mean, both teams, as far as you can't use schedule congestion as a issue here. You would say obviously talent wise and depth wise, you give the edge to Arsenal, but could the home field factor with Newcastle, could it be like what they did against Newcastle, or excuse me, Liverpool, where that atmosphere, they come out hot, and unfortunately they just don't put Liverpool away early enough? Do you see that same sort of mindset when Arsenal come to town, where it's like, let's get on top of them as quick as we can, just we got to be more clinical in our finishing and all that type of stuff?
That seems to be the way that Newcastle are going to attack the league this year. Is the first 30 minutes they're just going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at them, and then try to kind of wound these teams early and kind of get them on the back foot, and hopefully bury them before they figure out what hit them. They get Anthony Gordon back this week, so that's big for Newcastle. St. James Park, good, big, raucous crowd, especially for this big team battle. The only problem is Newcastle are really struggling with injuries also. Wissa from Brentford, they're signing from Brentford's out. Jacob Ramsey, they're signing from Villa, is out. And then Fabian Schär is in concussion protocol. So one of their, staunch defensive players. And you're going to need all the defense you can get against Arsenal this week, who had a midweek, an easy midweek victory in Carabao Cup. We're able to rotate some guys out, so they should be well rested for this game. Saka, you'll have a front line in this game if things go according to plan of Eze, Gyökeres, and Saka. It'd be the front three. That's pretty imposing. If they go with their best front three, that's a pretty imposing front three. But again, Arsenal under Arteta, they think they know what they want to do. They think they want to possess the ball and try to play, expansive, and that's great. But Newcastle are the team that is going to try to make it ugly and physical and fast and get under their skin. And I don't know if Arsenal have that blue collar mentality in them. That's the one thing I worry about. Would not worry about with them, but the edge I give to Newcastle is, I think of Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton and Anthony Gordon. Like, this is a salty team, man. And now Voltemade, big physical German guy up top. Like, Newcastle could just straight muscle this game away from Arsenal. I think they have a really good chance at doing it too.
Yeah, two great points. One is just it shows how much depth Arsenal truly has added over the year or so, because you look at Arsenal's injury list, you got Gabriel Jesus, you got Havertz, Odegaard, and Madueke. Like, you would think that would put any team having those players out in a real bind. But then you just named off of, like, who they could be having up top. Eze, Saka, Gyökeres. You could have Trossard coming off the bench. Like, they've really bolstered down as far as, like, depth. So I'm sick of Arteta ever talking about, the pay or whatever. But
he needs more players.
Yeah, I love your final point there, whereas Arsenal, you're right. When the games get chippy or they get physical, they just seem to not be able to handle that as well. Whereas I feel like Newcastle is going to be a team at home, especially, that's going to look to thrive off that, and they do have those players that will get under your skin and will throw you off your game. To where, if I'm Newcastle going into this game, that's my game plan. Is let's just throw them off their game, come at them quick, and really make this a physical game that if they're going to get a result, they're going to be out of here with, some sort of, they're going to go through a battle to get any sort of result here. So I think that's Newcastle's best bet.
Yeah, I like Newcastle a lot in this game, man. I really do.
It's going to be a fun one to watch. I'm hoping.
I hope so. I can't deal with any more of these hyped up big team battles being garbage games. And it's going to be right before football kicks off. It's last week was good. Last week was City and Arsenal right before football kicked off, so it was a good transition into the rest of the day. But we will see.
Yeah, make it to where I make it dangerous driving to work while I'm listening to this on my phone for the second half. Like, I want to be so enthralled, wondering what's going on, that people have to fear myself going to work.
Is it even fair that we have one more game that we have to talk about? That's the Monday game.
I know, I feel like they almost do this here lately this year, where it's like, hey, if people are at work and it's midday, they don't feel like they're missing anything. They've been putting like these Monday games where it's just like, oh yeah, we forgot to schedule them, huh? Just throw them on Monday. Nobody will care anyway. But yeah, we've got Everton taking on West Ham.
They forgot to schedule.
Yeah,
It's
Everton's back at Goodison. West Ham just get really just not good. They're reminding me of
Graham Potter. He might not make it to January.
No, it's so boy. Has there been a managerial like drop off as strong as like Graham Potter as far as like how he was revered? They were talking about him being the England's manager for a long time, and then didn't work out at Chelsea. Now really not working out here at West Ham. Like it's been is it just a case of he had the right players with the right system in the right place, and that's what worked for him, and he should have never left it? Like, what?
Well, he wouldn't. Eventually, the choice would have been taken out of his hands because they sold all those players away anyway.
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. It's hard to tell. I don't have enough. I just don't think West Ham was ever a Graham Potter fit because it's a team that wants to compete. They think they should compete. And they don't have the financial backing, and they sign these aging. They're a lot like Everton, right? Like I feel like club profile, they're a lot like Everton. Like you've got a lot of history of success, not in more modern times, but you go out and you try to supplement with these aging players or players that you're taking a shot on if you overpay for them. But to this point, it has not worked. West Ham have the feel of a Nuno reclamation project maybe by January, and then maybe Nuno picks up some of these stragglers that need teams that want out. Raheem Sterling, looking at you, all these bomb squad guys that he would stay. He wouldn't even have to leave London. He could just go right over to West Ham and that'd be great. But this game, I'm actually glad that this game is on its own because I haven't had a chance to actually. Other than the Merseyside game, I only watched the first half of the Merseyside derby, so I want to be able to sit down on Monday and watch full-on Everton at home and see what I actually think about them. They have not been the center of my focus yet, but I want to see what I actually feel about that squad at this point. So I think they win pretty easily, but I think it's a chance for them to be not re-announce themselves as the Premier League, but and again, I don't think they're going to be like a top 4 contender, but I don't think under the right conditions, maybe they could compete for like Conference League, something like that. Be a spoiler down the line.
Yeah, I echo your sentiment on honestly both these teams. Where, especially West Ham this year, it's kind of been like I'll find any other game, besides that one to watch.
Yeah, and
then Everton, it's always seemed like they're during a time where it's been. Another good team, and I've just haven't really thought much on Everton considering the past couple years, but they have made big strides, obviously. And if anything, I always like to, and this goes for the same for the MLS or anytime, I like to watch games with teams that are around us. And currently they're sitting one spot above us, just on goal differential, but on the same amount of points. So I do want to see, like, is this a team that, is this a team that they've just gotten lucky on results, things have gone their way, or is this a team that actually could be, towards the end of the year, be talking mid-table or possible European conversation?
Yeah.
And I just want to see it. And obviously, too, I always kind of enjoy just having more football to watch, and so
and your buddy Seamus Coleman's on that team. Your good friend.
He hasn't gotten as much playing time, but
Do you did you like tell him like, hey, the next time you get on the field, if you score a goal like in a cup game, can you like do a little like hand signal to me or something? That would be great.
I wish I could have, but honestly, like the only thing I kept telling myself in my head was just don't say some United douche shit to him. Like just be nice and be like, just be like, I appreciate you taking the time and talking with me and all that type of stuff. I was like, just I kept telling myself that in my head. Like, and plus I'm usually not the person who ever like approaches people, but he saw me point at him and mouth, is that Seamus Coleman? So like, I think he felt like he had to come talk to me. Like, cause we were in some store my wife wanted to go to, and we were like in the woman's floor. So it's just also kind of like, what are you doing here? Like, not even the store, but what are you doing here? And so, yeah, I should have. I don't even know what I would have told him that would have, like, I'm sure even if I said that, he'd have been like, kid, I'm just looking to get on the field. Like,
Hey,
this,
make a little heart sign for me, Seamus.
Yeah. Just like
I
back
still
at
think
the
it's
camera.
hysterical that just so absurd and hysterical that you recognized a relatively obscure Premier League player in a random store in Chicago, and you were the only, guarantee, there was not a person within 6 blocks that didn't know him personally that would have recognized him on the street.
Well, that's why. I mean, he was walking around in full Everton like training kit gear.
Yeah.
And what I loved is like if you look at the pictures that we took, there's like 2 of them where there's like a couple women walking by, and you can tell they're looking like, why is he taking a? Who is that? Why is he taking?
Yeah,
a
who is
that
that guy?
person? Like,
Yeah.
there's got to be some connection. And it was the same. We passed like Bournemouth players walking on the road, and like. Had it not been for my wife saying they look like soccer players, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's Bournemouth players, like 4 of them." Like, no, that's got to be such a relieving feeling though for those guys to just be like walking around and just being like, nobody knows who the hell I am. You know, this is
relieving, but also like, hey, I'm a big deal in England, man. Like, this is bullshit.
But then he's also got to be thinking, you've got to be kidding me. One guy recognizes me. I'm in the women's section of a store.
Out of all the places, one
you
guy recognizes
You
me.
saw me in the Nike store down the road. You saw me here. Like, God, you got to be
And
kidding
now,
me.
and now he's going to talk about me on his podcast.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Shout out Seamus Coleman, friend of the pod.
Yeah, friend of
Did
the
you
pod.
even listen? Okay, did you even mention the podcast?
No, again, it took everything in me that when I
Son of
took
a
his-
bitch, Eric.
When it took everything in me. First off, we hadn't started Red versus Blue yet, so I couldn't be like, "Hey, we have a local MLS podcast," and he'd be like, "Oh, up here in Chicago." No, 4 hours south from here, and like I said, it took everything in me. Thank God I wasn't all Man United up because I felt like that would have been a weird thing. But I didn't want to It took everything when I shook his hand as he went to leave to not be like "Glory, glory," like just like, he'd have been like,
The next time you meet a random obscure English player in the streets of Chicago, I demand that you FaceTime me, and I'll take care of the plug. I'll take care of the pod plug. We'll do a live interview.
I think I
fire
joked,
up Riverside and do a live interview immediately. That would have been a real pro move.
I think I remember now. It's all coming back to me that you actually you messaged me and said that day you were like something about, did you tell him about the podcast? And I said, yeah. I joked back and said like, yeah. He said he doesn't have enough time, so I called him a wanker and told him to leave. And then, but yeah, it was like. Hey, if other people can somehow pull Premier League players on their podcast, who says we can't? Here?
That's great stuff. But we are fully back knee deep into soccer season, my friend. We've got cup competitions, we've got Champions League, we've got Europa today, Premier League,
problem, though,
Championship, League One. It's exciting, man.
So out of form that I don't happen to think like midweek, like, oh, hey, there's games today. Like, I just am always just thinking, like, oh, I got to wait till Saturday. Maybe it's because that's the only time United ever plays anymore. But, like, it is great being like, oh, there's probably a game today, like, in some form or fashion. So, yes.
Every day. There's a game. There's a game every day. And we talked about this last little piece on Tuesday's pod, Tuesday's South End Supporters. And there hasn't been any more information to come out. But there is some movement, and we want to talk about this because it ties into Red versus Blue in the Premier League. There was a reported rumor that Lee Dykes, technical director for Brentford, is on the short list for the next sporting director for City. So we'll talk about that probably more on South End Supporters than we will here. But we just wanted to mention it because it's the concept of it is really cool, and you and I both talked about the profile of having somebody that was at a club like Brentford, and then the access that they would have potentially to the English professional system is really exciting to us.
Yes, very much so. And it honestly, over the past couple of days since we talked about it, it seems like that has gained more and more steam. So hopefully coming next week, by the time we do next episode of South End Supporters, like we have a little bit even more information on that.
Something more concrete.
So yeah, it'll be exciting. It's exciting.
Awesome.
It's a great time of year. So that's all we have, unless you have anything else you want to add as far as this upcoming weekend.
No, we're good, my friend. Enjoyed it like always, and
Always.
looking forward to next week.
Yep, and we appreciate everybody who listens, and we appreciate all the people who care about the show because we have fun doing it. If you want to keep up with the show, make sure you're following us on all our socials. On Instagram, we're South End Supporters. On Twitter and Reddit, we're capital SES_podcast STL. Make sure you're following us on our Facebook page and our YouTube to keep up with all things South End Supporters. So for myself, Eric Cole, for the Monday Morning Center Back, you've been listening to South End Supporters. And until next week,
It's not loud enough. I can't hear it. There you go. I like it.
come on, United.